Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 102 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is of course a weekly series where you ask me questions in the comment section below, and each week I do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, leave it in the comment section below and hopefully you'll be featured next week. Now before we do get on to this week's questions, I do want to address a couple of points if you'll let me. The first one is that a few people have contacted me saying that they're not getting the notifications for when my videos drop, which is really unfortunate. YouTube can be a little bit funny like that, but obviously to make sure that you are getting notified, you need to make sure you're subscribed, and B, that you hit the little bell for the notifications. Now, I have heard some people say that even though they have done that, they still don't get the notifications. You might want to check the settings of the YouTube app or whatever you're using just to make sure that you've got the notifications set to on. The second point is I just want to thank everybody for watching my video that I dropped yesterday. It was my pickups video for what I've picked up in the last couple of weeks. And in that video, I also did open some fan mail from James Marland, and he asked me if I could save this one, episode 3 error card, for another video. So we will be opening that later on in the video. Those sorts of videos, like the pickup videos and things like that, they're the sort of videos that you may not get notified for. It's not on an actual schedule. I just drop them randomly, and that might be one of the reasons why you don't get notified. But anyway, with all that being said, drop a like down below if you do happen to enjoy this video and the Ask Bossk Bounty series, and let's get straight on to the first question. Eduardo Vega says, great video, my friend. Question for next week. Hasbro said they would restock the special 4-pack for the Bad Batch by the end of the year, but do you think international collectors could get it too? If I'm not wrong, it was only available in some countries, UK, US, Spain and Canada. So yes, it was an Amazon exclusive. Now, I'm in the UK and I actually managed to order one off Amazon.com. So in the settings of your Amazon app, you can change the country. If you're willing to pay the extra shipping costs, you can actually get that to wherever you are internationally. I also ordered one on .co.uk to obviously see which one came first. And of course, I want to keep one set carded and open the other for the reviews and things like that, and to keep loose. But yes, you're right, they will be doing a restock. I think towards the end of the year they're going to be doing a restock, and it won't be a pre-order, it'll just be a restock. You buy it and then you'll get it in the next few days. So I imagine they'll wait until they've got them in the distribution centres ready to go, so that when you order them, as I say, next couple of days you get them. So good luck folks, I hope you'll get one. Channel member Saucy Boy Studio says, question for next week, with the TVC Ahsoka being repacked, what do you see this doing to the value of the original? I personally see myself only getting one of the repacked Ahsoka because I already have the 3.75 inch Black Series figure loose. Yeah, I have that one as well, and I don't have the original carded either. So I'm very pleased that they're doing it. Essentially, I think it will have an impact. I think if you look at previous reissues, especially the Emperor's Royal Guard, for example, the value of that figure has come down drastically. Now, the Ahsoka might be a little bit different because it was at the very end of TVC 1.0. I believe it is only available online, so not many people may have got it in the first place. Lower production run, all that kind of stuff. So it will affect it, but I don't think it'll affect it as much as others. Having said that, the price for that Ahsoka, you know, some people are talking over $1,000, is just balmy, completely ridiculous. And for that matter, I hope it comes down, because charging anybody that much for a modern TVC figure is just ridiculous. Brett Swineford says, question for next week, do you think Hasbro will fix the fin on Jesse ARC Trooper's helmet when he is individually released? Now, I should have actually got that figure out for you today, but I do apologise about that. But yes, he does have an incorrect fin on the helmet. And if you're going to ask me right now, I don't really think they will. I know it's unfortunate. Having said that, they have fixed things in the past, recorrected things in the past, but for me, I just think that this figure, obviously as part of that 3-pack, I think it's just going to be a straight repack from that 3-pack. But you never know, fingers crossed they'll fix it, but as I say, I'm not too sure they will. Zachary Ludlam says, hi BB, great video as always. Question for next week, do you think we'll ever get a Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter with the folding wings in TVC? Also, when do you think a Vintage Collection Blurg is coming? Thank you for the great work as always. Well, my friend, those two things are very high on my hit list as well. I would absolutely love for them to do a Vintage Collection Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter and a Blurg, of course. Now, the Vintage Collection Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter, that could be one that they could do quite easily, I think. They've got the sort of main body of the TIE Fighter. Maybe they'd have to sculpt in some landing gear. Maybe they can attach on or something. And then obviously they just got to do the folding wings. So that one I don't think is out of the realms of possibility. I think that could be a vehicle for the future. That would be really good. As for the blurg, I mean, I think they're pretty much aware that we need the blurg. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that they are going to be looking at expanding the line into creatures and things like that, because a blurg, a dewback, two that I really, really want, and two that have featured heavily in The Mandalorian. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for those ones. Sean Morgan says, question for next week, will we ever see figures, preferably TVC, for Takodana Castle? Love collecting and building out Mos Eisley and Jabba's Palace, but there hasn't really been any figures of that many great characters from The Force Awakens. Building a Maz Kanata scene would be great fun. I totally agree. There were some great sort of character designs in the Takodana Castle, but I just think the sequel trilogy ship has sailed for now. I don't think they're going to be doing anything from those films for quite a long time. Not just because that they weren't that well received, but I think it's just because they've got so much other stuff to be doing. Like, you know, with all the new shows that are upcoming, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to slot any sequel trilogy figures into the line, or the Black Series for that matter. And also you've got to think to yourself, to build out that Maz Kanata's castle, how many new figures would they have to give you? There's so many, and it wouldn't be very good just getting one or two. You'd need the whole lot. So again, I just don't think that's going to happen, my friend. Marky D 1967 has got a very long question here, but I will just summarise it. It's about the Blue Milk book on Kickstarter, which was the Vintage Collection Archive book. And have I ordered it? And yes, I have, my friend. And apparently it's going to be due to be shipping this weekend to some people. They're airlifting some of them in. Some are stuck in the port on those cargo ships. But I think whoever's ordered it can look to get it before Christmas, which is going to be absolutely awesome. I cannot wait for that book. It looks fantastic. Hopefully I'm throwing up some images for you on screen of some of the pages of what's in the book, but it's going to be brilliant. If you're a fan of the Vintage Collection, then obviously you're going to want this book. And if you missed out on the Kickstarter, I do believe that the Big Bad Toy Store, they backed it a load of times and then stuck them on their website at retail price. And I think they may still have some available. So if you missed out on the book, check out Big Bad Toy Store to see if they've still got them available. Channel member Daniel van der Linden says, hey boss, great video as always. Question for next week, will the reveals from PulseCon have the thicker cards already? So I do believe that all of the reveals that we've seen are obviously figures for the future that won't be coming out until next year. So yes, I believe that they will have the new thicker cardstock. We already have Antok Merrick here, which does have the thicker cardstock. And to be honest, it's about double the thickness of the previous Vintage Collection figures that we've been getting most recently. So that's really good news, because this is, you know, it really is much better cardstock. Unfortunately, the Emperor Wave with Lando and everything like that didn't have the new cardstock, but I fully expect the Bo-Katan Wave with Bib Fortuna and everything to be so further down the line, i.e. at the end of this year, that they will have that new cardstock. And obviously all future figures from after then will have the new cardstock as well, which is brilliant. And also, if you did wonder what this little setup is, obviously happy Halloween everybody. I know it's quite celebrated in the States, not so much here in the UK, but I thought I'd do a little setup of some like Halloween sort of aliens. It does look like a mob of people that are dressed up at the end of the day, and you've got some little pumpkins there as well. Alright then, so just a break from the questions very quickly, because I did want to open this from James Marland. He sent me a box to my PO box yesterday, and I made a video about it, and this one he said, you know, open it in another video, which is cool. So let's just quickly open this to see what he sent me. It says error card on the front, so let's take a look. Yesterday's one was the Dengar with the Boba sticker with the double B. So let's have a look at this one. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is the Darth Vader with the error sticker. And you can see there it's spelt with the double B. I'm not 100% sure how rare or collectible these are, but a lot of people that like error cards and variants, someone like me, I love all that kind of stuff, you know, collects this sort of thing. So thank you so much, James. I really appreciate it, buddy. And that is awesome, because I do have quite a lot of the other Darth Vader cards. There's various different ones, revenge cards, return cards, the Empire one, the reissue. And I do have them all, apart from this one with the error. Now I do. So thank you so much, my friend. That's awesome. GA says, hi BB, question for Q&A 102. I was delighted to see the reveal of the Rebel Fleet Trooper Troop Builder box set at Hasbro PulseCon. Do you think Hasbro might subsequently release Captain Antilles on a TVC card? He could be on an original Star Wars card back or Rogue One. Cheers, man. yeah, I would love to see him on an original Star Wars card, most definitely. And would they do it? I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. At the end of the day, with that figure's there now. It is a repaint of the Rebel Fleet Trooper, but that doesn't matter. It still looks great. Still looks perfect. And yeah, Hasbro are going to make money where they can make money. So if they've already got a figure and they think they can put it in the main line on its own card, and if they think it will sell, then they'll definitely do it. Owen Brown says, awesome episode, Tim. Question for next week. If you could only keep one carded figure out of your entire collection, which would it be and why? Thanks as always for the great content. Alright, so I've picked two out. I've picked a modern one and I've picked a vintage one for you. And this may come as a surprise to some people, I don't know, but the one I would keep from my modern line is the Canadian Yoda. And it's not just because of the value, it's because of, I guess, the rarity of it, and also just the fact that it's just a bit of an oddity, really, in the line. So you've got the Empire Strikes Back image, but on a Jedi card. You've got the multi-language, but you've got the Revenge of the Sith figure. I just think it's a complete mismatch. I absolutely love it. And yeah, out of all of the sort of modern vintage collection figures that I own, this is the one that I would keep if I could only keep the one. As for vintage, it would have to be one of my Bosks, of course, and I think this one's my favourite. This is the Palatoy Bossk, and on the Empire card, and the reason why I love this one so much is because it is quite a hard one to get, but also because this one was faked quite a lot in the Toy Tony scandal, where Toy Tony managed to get loads of old card backs, so original card backs, they were real, and bubbles from the factory, like overstock. And then what he did was he bought figures off of eBay that were like near mint condition, and then he put them onto the cards himself and sold them as actual, you know, carded vintage figures. But this one is definitely not. It's in pretty good shape, but it does have a crease there. And yeah, this isn't a Toy Tony. The bubble's gone a bit yellow, and we do have the crease. Usually the Toy Tonys are in like immaculate condition, and they even fooled the graders back in what, the 90s or something, maybe early 2000s, possibly, not too sure. But yeah, they were fooled as well. But yeah, this is probably my favourite vintage carded figure. Jar Binks says, hey Bossk, last week you gave my comment a heart but didn't answer it. Oh, I do apologise about that, my friend. Around what time do you guess the Vintage Collection Bad Batch figures will be available? I've heard people say it will be close to Season 2, but I'm not so sure if that's true. Also, how do you think they'll pull off Echo's helmet? Okay, so for the first part of the question, like, I'm not even convinced that we're going to be getting the Bad Batch figures. So this all comes down to how many slots they have for the year for newly tooled figures in their budget. And with all the other shows that are coming, I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to be getting them in the Vintage Collection. But having said that, if they do, I do believe that they might drip feed them. So you might get one or two, then you might have to wait a little bit longer for the others, which is going to be a bit of a shame. As for the Echo's helmet, they would have to probably do a head swap with that one, very much like they're doing with the Bo-Katan figure and they did with the Mando figure. I think they'd have to do that. Christopher Barton says, great show as always. Question for next week. With the announcement of the Death Watch Mandalorians coming out in the Vintage Collection, do you think Hasbro will eventually give us Gar Saxon or Pre Vizsla from the Clone Wars in TVC? So I think these are far more likely than the Bad Batch figures that we were just talking about a second ago, because essentially they can use parts from existing figures. You know, some of the tooling is already going to be there for Pre Vizsla and Gar Saxon. We're getting the Mandalorian, I think they're called, which is like the Super Commando, and we're getting the sort of Death Watch loyalist type guy, the Airborne Trooper. We've already got Maul, we've already got Ahsoka from Season 7, we're getting the 332nd, so I don't think that Gar Saxon and Pre Vizsla are out of the realms of possibility, whereas the Bad Batch is a bit more difficult. Collector 1970 says, question for next week, with all the Ewok, Han, Luke and Endor figures that they have released, and now a possibility of getting an Ewok Village Leia in the Vintage Collection soon with the release of the Black Series 1, do you think the next Haslab will be an Ewok Village playset, and that they might be trying to get all of the characters to put on the box art? Can you say breadcrumbs? So, I mean, mate, that would be an awesome idea. I would love an Ewok Village. I'm somebody that loves the Ewoks. I know some people don't. Some people thought they were a bit cutesy and all that kind of stuff, but I love the Ewoks. I love the Ewok catapult. I love the glider. I love everything that comes with the Ewoks. So if they were to do a Haslab Ewok Village for all of the figures that you rightly say have been released over this last year, that would be great. The only thing that I would say about that is Hasbro haven't really got a great record of sort of unifying things when it comes to their releases. If you look at the carbon freezing chamber, a lot of collectors were left with like, well, what do I put on it? You know, there is nothing, and it's taken them this long to get the Lando out. We're obviously waiting for Lobot. The Bespin wing guards were really expensive on the secondary market. You know, when you look at the Jabba's Palace playset, we're only just getting Bib Fortuna. So they don't always line these things up. And when you look at those Endor figures, you know, where's the speeder bike? You would think that would be a very easy one for them to do, the speeder bike, and they haven't done it. So keep fingers crossed, and hopefully they're learning and giving us more stuff that goes with other stuff that we already have. But as I said, it would be an awesome idea. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 102 of Ask Boss Bounty. Thank you so much to my channel members and my Patreon supporters. It does mean the world to me, so thank you so much for the support. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to drop a like down below if you have enjoyed this video, and we shall see you on the next one.